This is Jason White with White's Artworks. Welcome to the Build Guild podcast, a professionally unprofessional podcast for makers. Just got one quick question for you, if you don't mind, Brian.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I had somebody else ask that too.
You got?
Can we start a GoFundMe to get this guy some Wi-Fi?
Oh,
wherever
that's
he
where
lives?
that was going. I should have known.
It's the ongoing joke. We had someone come up to us at lunch and ask, "Hey, tell me about Brian. What's wrong with him?"
Seriously?
Yeah.
It was Joey Myers.
Yep.
Oh, well, that makes all the sense in the world then. I mean, got a hairdo like that, you can talk that
That's
way.
true.
Yeah.
The mohawk.
Yeah, you're rocking a mohawk. You sure looks
Thanks,
like
Joey.
So I found you guys about podcast number 4, and then I went back and started at number 1 and started listening to you guys, and I made myself laugh. This is just a few weeks ago, but it was I think it was probably about 11:30 or 12 o'clock, and I got a notification on my Instagram that Fiery Squirrel had liked one of my posts.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, it must be lunchtime. so that's now my schedule. I know when Brian's
It's
was
changed
at Walmart.
now.
I
It's
understand.
changed.
Yeah.
He lost his internet privilege.
I can thank our state legislature for that
Mhm.
mandated 40 minutes of recess, which has taken
Yeah.
away that luxury. But
Oh,
hey, at least I'm outside soaking up the vitamin D.
I heard you say it's either lunch or Wi-Fi at
Yeah,
this point.
that's what it is.
Well, Jason, you're I'd like to say graffiti artist.
Started
Right.
out that way, yes, sir.
I think it's interesting that you're doing murals all over town
Absolutely.
our local town of Searcy.
Mm-hmm.
They're huge,
All over the state, actually.
all over the
that's what I'm
state.
saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
Travels
Yes.
a lot.
but I see it here.
Yeah.
I guess. But it's tell us how you started out, because when I think of murals on the side of a building, I think you start out as a bad kid spray painting trains.
So you're about half right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I will say that honestly, I feel like I was a really good kid. I wasn't a troublemaker. Didn't run with the bad kids at school. My parents always knew where I was. However, I was out painting trains. They just knew where I was whenever I was.
So you were
I was
at
out.
the train yard.
I was
painting
at
the trains.
We had a friend that lived right on the train tracks, and so we could park in her driveway, cut through her yard, and we were right there on the train tracks. So.
Nice.
You just pick up spray paint and just start going, or what?
No,
Did you always have that artist ability in you, or
I did.
how'd that start?
So, long story. Hope you guys got a little bit of time.
Go for it.
Started out. I mean, I knew when I was 5 years old. I was the kid in kindergarten that if you took a nap, you got a stamp on your hand. If you had a stamp after you got up from nap, you got to go to the treasure chest and get something out of it. The other kids were getting candy and stuff like that. I was getting crayons, color pencils, little coloring books, sketchbooks. I knew that I had a passion for art. Somewhere along the way, I allowed fear to really just creep in and stop me from doing that. Very supportive parents, very supportive education system. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where that internal fear came from. But all the way through school, people would ask me to draw their name and draw a picture, draw me a car, do this, do that. And I was always drawing stuff all the way through school. Had one teacher, Mr. Davis, was my math teacher. And he I guess he knew that I was going to be an artist, and school wasn't that important to me at the time, and so he just not necessarily gave up on me, but kind of let me do what I wanted to do. And as long as I used a number 2 pencil, I could draw on the whole desk. And so during his class, that's what I did. I would have that entire desk covered with graphite sketches, pencil
awesome.
sketches, and he just let me do it. But that encouragement was amazing. I still learned. I draw whenever I'm talking, whenever I'm, just sitting, doodling. I mean, I'm drawing,
Like Brian over there.
Exactly. A lot like Brian. And somewhere, I guess I was probably 15 or 16 years old. And this is something that we talk about on the first episode of my podcast. There was a student teacher from Harding University that he was from Davis, California. Grew up in the Sacramento Bay area. He grew up in the graffiti culture. I lived down near the tracks in Ball Knob, not too far from here, and I would always see graffiti, but I never thought of it. I was always told graffiti's bad.
Yeah.
Exactly like you were saying. And so I just said, well, that's bad. I don't do that. I saw his sketchbook and it blew my mind. It just opened up a whole different world to me of this graffiti style that he had. Fell in love with it, became 100% addicted to it. And 15, 16 years old, started spray painting, hitting the trains, hitting bridges, just doing the whole nine. Graduated 98, got married in 99, moved to Dallas, and met a whole different level of graffiti artists in Dallas. We had an area called Deep Ellum, and it was a public art area. It was kind of where the clubs and tattoo shops and everything was, but they had these giant parking lots where anybody could come and paint. Spent way too much time down there. Got put on academic termination from
termination,
not
probation.
I got kicked out from the Art Institute of Dallas.
No way.
And
That's amazing.
I was on probation a few times, but it wasn't.
No, termination from an art institute for being artistic.
For doing art?
You don't even know.
What
That's akin to when I get bad Facebook or YouTube messages. I can't believe you took those colored pencils away from the kids,
children,
to make art with artwork.
Okay.
So you got kicked out of the Art Institute of Dallas
for being creative.
In a parking lot and using graffiti.
For not making good grades, not getting the assignments complete. And I'm one of those weird mix of creative / business. And so I'm kind of a talker, sales guy. I mean, that's my world. I never meet a stranger, and I just love sales. I love win-win opportunities, And so, man, I went and laid it on as thick and as heavy as I could with the dean, and I was able to talk myself back into the school and graduated and ended up back here not using my degree at all.
Oh, yeah, so, there you go.
Yeah. That's like a lot of us here.
Yeah.
So you were in Dallas.
In Dallas.
After the degree, what did you do?
Web design and graphic design. So that's what my degree was in.
And you am I right? Did you spend a time working at Think?
I did, but that was way later on.
Okay.
So after I graduated, like I said, my degree was in web design and graphic design. Going back to high school a little bit, again, having the supportive education system, my art teacher took myself and my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, we met when we were 14, took us to Memphis to visit the Memphis School of Art. My parents, my art teacher, just the whole crew went. And I knew that that's where I was supposed to be. This art school was what I was supposed to do. But that fear, every time I start to make a life-changing decision, it's just this, I can't do it. I won't be successful. You hear people talk all the time about starving artists. And man, that would just, anytime I start to do anything art related, that voice would just come back every single time. And so instead of following my passion, following art, I ended up, following the money and studied web design and graphic design. Went to work for Verizon Super Pages, handling New York online accounts, designing websites for them. Did that for about 2 years.
How much is designing websites akin to doing artwork? You're not drawing any pictures or anything.
It's come a long ways
moving
now.
Boxes or writing code.
That's exactly what it was back then. But again, I was following money and not passion, So I think that's one reason I burn out so quick on that is because it wasn't as creative as I wanted to be. Within the parameters of the code. There was some great websites out there at the time, but it just wasn't where I was supposed to be. We lived in Dallas for about 6 or 7 years, and then my dad had started a business back here. My dad's we never called it entrepreneur, but that's what he is and that's what he was. And he just kind of happened into a job with like wooden pallets and skids and stuff like that. And He's
making art from them, or he's making them?
No, making them, selling them, tearing them down.
He was making them so people could make coffee tables.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
the original palette artist.
Exactly. And so he got more work than he could handle. My wife and I decided that we were ready to start a family. 6 or 7 years later, parents were like, "Hey, are we going to have grandkids? Like, what's going on here?" And so we moved back, started a family. I went to work with him, and it was a great business. I mean, we had clients like Lowe's, PetSmart. We had some large clients.
Yeah.
Housing market kind of happened, a few years back, and everything kind of slowed down a little bit, and I was ready to get out of it at that point. So I kind of sold my part back to him, and that's when I went to work at Think Idea Studio. And I was with those guys for about 4 years.
Were you doing artwork on the side or anything related to that while you're working with your father?
So in the middle of all of this, working with my dad and then transitioning over to Think, I knew that I needed to be around creativity again. There was nothing creative about what we were doing with the palette business, and so I took a work at Think Idea Studio. I was doing sales, but I was at least around the designers and the creativity and all of that. And in the middle of all of that, I had a lady contact me and ask me if I could paint her son's name on his wall. He was gone to church camp, and she wanted his name was Connor, wanted Connor in graffiti on the wall. And I was like, well, I hadn't done that in a long time. Let's give it a shot.
Like in his bedroom?
Yeah, in his bedroom. And so I did that. And before I left, she had a daughter, and the daughter came out and was like, "Hey, can you draw something on these Tom's shoes for me?" And it was just a white pair of Tom's shoes. And I was like, "Yeah, let's give it a shot," And so I did this artwork on Tom's shoes, and that's when I was like, I'm just going to stick this on Facebook. I didn't know anything about Facebook at the time. It was really just getting started. It was still new. Threw it on there and had somebody else ask me if I could do a pair of shoes. I would put those on there. It seemed like every time I would do a pair, I would do more, I'd get 2 pair, 3 pair. One year I probably did 60 or 70 pairs of Tom's shoes for people. But the thing about it is I started out charging like $25, and it was taking me 4 or 5 days to do it. So I wasn't going to retire on that.
We all do that.
I knew that wasn't where I was called to be, But it all kind of started from there. And then, of course, being at Think Idea Studio, got to meet a lot of people in the community. We did a photo shoot and had my graffiti mask on, and I had some spray paint cans, and I threw them up. Grant Dillon was the photographer, and it was just a great photo. I mean, I threw the cans up, and it looked like they were floating above my hands in the picture. And we ran that ad in Searcy Living. And Christy Thurman, the marketing director at First Security Bank, had seen the picture, and she was like, "Hey, can you paint some windows for me?" And I was like, at the time, I hated window art. I hated window paintings because you could see through them from the inside.
You hated the idea of them, or
you've
not done that before?
I didn't like the style.
Okay.
I didn't like the way it looked at all. But they were willing to pay, and I was like, "Hey, well, let's give it a shot." It's kind of the same thing with the shoes. And sure enough, the first year I painted 4 different banks. I did a lot of research on paint, technique, and whenever I paint these things, they look like decals. I mean, they're so thick that you can't see through them.
Yeah.
And I painted 4 banks the first year, painted 28 banks for them the second year. And
for First Security, is that what you
First
said?
Security, yes, sir.
28 of their banks.
28 of their banks around the state. Yeah. And then that second year after I did that, Crane Automotive approached me about painting their car lots. And I think they've got 9 car lots in this area, and they've got 8 or 9 up around Northwest Arkansas, and wanted me to paint Christmas scenes on their windows. So my first 2 real clients was First Security Bank and Crane Automotive,
Those are
which is huge for
big
Arkansas.
businesses, yeah.
And so it was about 2 years into it. I was 2 years at Think, and then the last 2 years I was kind of doing the artwork part time. And I was painting a car lot up at Bentonville. So drove up there, had a car lot contact me. It's like, "Hey, we want you to paint all the school logos." So they've got like 7 elementary schools up there. They want a logo for each one. Well, there's a lot of turnover in car lots. And by the time I got up there, the guy that I had been talking to, negotiated the price with, was no longer there. The people had no idea what I was talking about. I drove 2.5, 3 hours. I've got all this paint. I'm like,
"Oh my gosh,
let me paint something. I'll let's paint something. They're like, well, what would you charge for a Razorback? So I gave them a price, and they're like, well, let's just do one Razorback, not two. Let's just, so it went from 7 logos to 2 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'm just going to set up my time lapse and film this. Set up my
When was
camera.
this?
This was the second. This was my 4th year at Think. This was my last year at Think Idea Studio. So this was 4 years ago.
All right.
I think. I set the time lapse camera up, shot the video, and I just felt like, honestly, the Lord said it was time. I know that I had fought this fear for so long, and man, it was a beautiful day. It was a lot like it was today. It was 70s,
No humidity.
no humidity, breeze blowing, just a beautiful day, and I just felt like I can do this. I feel like I can do this. And so I called Matt with Think Idea Studio on the way back home. And I was like, man, I've appreciated the opportunity to work with you guys for the past 4 years. But I need to put my notice in. I need to try this, Put my 2 weeks notice in.
You didn't call your wife and tell her any of this first.
She had been pushing me for a very long time.
She wanted you to branch out.
She's known that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
She knows that
they were together since 14.
Well, yeah,
exactly. She knows me better than I do.
Okay.
At
At this point,
yeah.
she knows him better than
But
me.
still, that jump from a guaranteed paycheck to that's huge. No matter what medium you're doing.
The most patient, most supportive wife you will ever meet.
Yeah.
Especially not just taking a leap for a business, but art. I mean, really, that's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And so, that has a lot. If it wasn't for her, there's not a chance I'd probably be doing this right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although I would know that I was supposed to be doing it, it was her support that's really,
and see,
really pushed me out.
I completely relate to that because I'm in the same boat. If it wouldn't have been for Megan, I would not have done it full time.
There's no doubt.
I think it's the same fear thing because I felt passionate about it, and for some reason, I don't know what it is culturally we do. If you're not feeling like you're grinding and you hate what you're doing, it's not a job. So I felt like I was passionate about it, and then it was like, well, this can't be right.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like how you're supposed to support your family.
It is such an emotional roller coaster because, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I had a hard time, and this is the number one question I get asked is like, what should I charge? I've got people that message me all the time. What do I charge? I'm like, I can't tell you that. I can give you some ideas on how to adjust your pricing and get to where you need to be, but I don't know what you're worth. I don't know what it's experience and all of that. But
there's way too many factors that go into.
Oh yeah. And so like I said, I called Matt, put my notice in. I put my notice in. And the next...
Alexa thought you said her name.
Oh, sorry, Alexa.
Keep going. She won't listen anymore.
Okay. I was giving her a minute to catch up. So I put my notice in. I called him on the phone. I came into work the next day. And on the way to work, a buddy of mine texted me, and he's like, "Man, have you seen your video on Facebook? Have you checked it?" And I was like, "Man, I haven't checked anything. I'm on my way to work, And he's like, "You need to look at it." So I looked at it real quick, and by the next morning, it had like 9,000 views on it. And I was like, "What?"
The time lapse?
Yeah, the time lapse.
Your time lapse
of
is
the
where
Razorback.
it's at. Time lapse all day, every day.
And I was like, I've got hacked. Like, something, because I've never had a post, even get close to anything like that. And I was like, but I'm at work. I'll check it at lunch. Checked it at lunch, and it was like 12,000 views. I was like, something's going on. So I started digging a little bit and looking at it. Finally saw a notification where Razorback Nation had reposted my time lapse.
Oh wow!
And that was just kind of confirmation, like, okay, this is a door. This is going to be something big. And so I worked my 2 weeks at Think Idea Studio, and my last day there, Matt was like, he's like, all right, since you don't work here anymore, he's like, I wrote this children's book years ago. He's like, I want you to illustrate that for me. So he hired me to illustrate it. And so I've worked with him on and off on different projects ever since. You know? And so it's grown so much. I mean, to be sitting here talking to you guys about this from where I started 4 years ago, it's just insane.
Well, within the last year, in my
Yeah.
deal, like you are everywhere.
Yeah.
How did you get everywhere? I don't understand how you.
He was literally driving everywhere.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
I mean, is it just social media? Do you think that's
A lot.
90% of?
It's a lot. I do feel like I'm doing a lot of things that people aren't willing to do, and so that's
Job wise.
job wise. I mean, the hours, the heat.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
what it really. I mean, the grind.
So-
It's just like everything else. It's the grind.
The last mural you did, give us kind of like so the building, how many feet was that wall? Like, 'cause it's a long building.
Yeah.
and
Tell
can
us
you-
about the process of that.
And about
Yeah.
the
I can't-
timeline under which you were, because if
Yeah,
I
I'm
understood
just-
the timeline correctly,
It was like 5 days.
that was
It was exactly 5 days.
a rocket
Yes.
launch.
Yeah. I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
I definitely do not recommend murals that size in 5 days when the heat index is 112,
I
115.
mean, it was
It's-
about the hottest we've had all
Oh yeah,
year.
for
It's-
sure.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the way it goes sometimes.
Okay.
You
It's
know,
meant to be.
I mean, it just seems like that's par for the course.
God
That's-
didn't use one of those days to get you to quit your job.
No.
It was 70 and humidity free.
You know, it's one of those days yesterday or last week was one of those test days,
Uh-huh.
you know, and so I feel like I survived it.
Yeah.
5 days, 3 migraines. So that's about how that went. So no, it's a very long wall. It's almost a full block. It's almost from street to street. I want to say it's around 120, 130, 120, 130 feet long. The tallest point I think is 28 feet, 30 feet, somewhere in there. And so, I mean, it's a huge wall. There's a shorter part that drops down, but
Take me
There
from
was-
the time that someone says, "Hey, let's do this."
Yeah.
Do you draw up something, and I just don't understand how you take it from a little teeny picture, and you can
The
manipulate the giant.
But the most amazing part of it was it wasn't even something that you had designed.
That's true.
It
Yeah.
was-
Yep.
They did a contest
Mhm.
from a local artist. The local artist, their picture won.
Yep.
But you're the guy who does the murals, so you are now to take their design
Mhm.
and just blow it up on this wall.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it sounds scary and complicated.
It is.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
No.
How you get the proportions right and
Yeah,
all that.
So I freehand everything. The only thing that I don't freehand is, like, for example, we have a music store here in Searcy called Quattlebaum Music, and we painted a mural on the side of that. The same artist, designer, Tara Peacock, is the designer that designed that one as well.
See, I know her
And-
well.
Yeah.
She did my logo.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
Okay.
awesome. She's a great designer, and
But did Jason draw it for you?
It's not on a wall yet.
Well,
yeah,
it needs to be.
yeah. So she came up with this design, and this was her first mural experience, and so there's a whole lot of words on that wall. Words and very, very clean logos is about the only thing that I'll use a projector for. It would take so much time to try to freehand and measure. And,
I saw
and
a
cut
picture of
everything
you
out.
doing a projector on
Oh, yeah.
something at one point.
It
I know
was the
Brian has
Quattlebaum.
done it in here
Oh,
on
yeah.
a wall.
Yeah.
The old school.
When it's something that's so clean, yeah, I've got the old school overhead projector
Uh-huh.
back
Yeah.
from the 90s.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
$25.
Uh-uh.
I found that thing.
$25 and the bulb's $1,000.
Man, and
it's
it's made its money. It's paid for
Yeah.
itself. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about the only thing that I use a projector for. Everything else is freehand. So we started talking about, and I know that you guys talked about on the show, the Hulu Small Business Revolution show
Right.
that we got going on.
I've heard of it.
That
Yeah,
Cody's.
yeah, you're familiar.
Cody's one of the winners.
I
losers.
wanted to kind of just act cool in here and be like, dude, is that Cody Skinner? Like, such a fan, you know.
The
no,
show's not even out yet.
Yeah.
No one knows who you are.
No one knows who I am.
such a
You
fan.
go ahead. Go ahead and say it.
He was in the same car rider line with my
Yeah.
kid. Yeah. So,
Whoa.
yeah. I just pulled up and I see like this big organic logo. And I was like, hey, I know that guy.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
But
then he passes and I see all this paint on a tailgate. And I'm like, I know that guy.
Ah.
man, it looks like some paint exploded in my truck.
Yeah.
But we had started talking about doing a mural. Deluxe Corporation wanted to do kind of a gift to Searcy, and it was a mural. They wanted to do a mural. So I've had a few people approach me and make the comment that they don't know that we would have necessarily been considered for the show had it not kind of been for our acceptance of art and kind of our progressive attitude toward growing our downtown and our community already.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really feel like art played a huge role in that. I'm a little biased, but I'm claiming it. So
That's
It's
fine.
the truth.
and
I agree.
I think it definitely got their attention, and so they really wanted to leave their mark on Searcy and do a mural. We had a hard time finding a location, and this was back in June, and they kept they were finishing up shooting in June, as you know, and they kept saying, okay, we're going to do this in June, we're going to do it in June, we got to get this thing done, and we just couldn't find the right building, couldn't find the right design. There were just so many people, we were going back and forth on it. And so they were like, all right, we're just going to push it back. We're going to push it to August. And so I already had jobs on hold, because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to start something and then, start this too. And so once they kind of gave me the all clear, my wife and I and our boys, we had a vacation plan. So I was gone for a week. I'm coming back and I kind of call and they're like, okay, we've got everything set up. We got this contest, the winner has been chosen and all of that. I get back into town and I kind of call. I'm like, okay, what about the wall? Is that going to be prepped? Is that ready to go? And they're like, that's the first we've heard of the wall needing to be prepped, And so there was.
I don't know what goes into prepping a wall.
Yeah,
Power washing it?
Yeah, pressure washing it, but it's got the old limestone mortar, like the old brick and mortar stuff the really old stuff, and there's not really a drainage system, a gutter system on it, and so the water had hit and just wore out some grooves down at the bottom of it. And so we had to have a guy come in, tuck point it, clean it up, fill in a lot of the holes on the wall.
Okay.
And then we had a guy come in and pressure wash it. Well, the concrete had to set for a couple of days before the pressure washer guy wanted to touch it.
Right.
So by the time all of that got done and the deadline that they had given me to have the wall finished, I had 5 days. And so I started on a Saturday morning and finished on a Wednesday evening.
Oh my gosh.
So I got it finished to a point. A lot of people have seen me after the show came.
You got it filmable,
yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. So from the camera, you can't see a lot of the little details in it.
Right.
But I went back with a brush and just filled in little bitty holes just all the way down the wall.
How did you go from the little to the big? How do you translate that?
Yeah. So that's the second question I get asked.
Okay.
The first one, being how do I charge? What do I charge? The second one is, how in the world do you take this image and project it? I've never really thought about that until probably about 2 or 3 murals ago, and that question kept coming up a lot. A lot. And that's when I kind of thought, well, maybe there's something to this, maybe I need to look at this, because I really see it. It's just a giant sheet of paper to me. Like in my head, I just see it.
Yeah, to you,
Yeah.
you scale it at what it is.
Yeah.
Not what it looks like to what it can be.
See,
I'm stuck because if I see it in a 7 by 5 by 9, 7 by 11, whatever it is, I can't take it from that to this.
Well, I can see it if you're standing far back, but once you get really close to it, your scale is totally off when you're right in front of a giant wall like that.
So the one thing that I found that I probably do is I usually will try to mock it up in Photoshop on the wall, and so
that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. Well,
Brian over questioning
I'm probably not going to help you feel much better.
All right, that was it right there.
The primary reason I do that is usually for the client, because I know that they can't.
They gotta see
They
it.
can't picture it, So I will mock it up, but I'll see the windowsill. I'll see power lines and power poles and those kind of. I guess it's a really loose grid process.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, but if you have a little drawing and you grid it out and each square is like a half inch, half inch equals 10 foot, so you make 10-foot squares and you just draw each square individually.
But you don't literally put that grid on,
Some people do. I haven't yet.
Okay. Because I've seen Daniel Adams uses that a lot.
Yeah, it's a great technique.
It is, but I still don't understand how you avoid doing that.
Well, one thing that really it was interesting. I had read this thing a long time ago that if you look at a picture and you draw it upside down, you can draw it because your brain will try to, if you're like, say you're trying to draw a horse,
Yeah.
you're overthinking it.
Okay.
You're trying to draw a horse. But
Okay.
if you take the picture of a horse and turn it upside down and then you draw that, your brain is not familiar with that.
Paying attention to the lines and not
You're
the overall
looking at it,
subject.
and
Okay.
whenever you draw your picture and you turn it right side up,
Yeah.
you'd be amazed how much it looks like a horse.
Okay.
And so,
It's crazy.
That is
Yeah.
I would have never thought
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
yeah. I recommend you try it. It'll blow your mind.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Wait till you see my horse.
We'll give it a try.
I recommend trying it. It's
When people
crazy.
say, "Can you do it for any cheaper?" Send them our drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Here's what it looks like.
I love those memes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts out looking like the Mona Lisa,
Oh,
and then it's like a stick
exactly.
figure of the horse.
Yeah.
Can you do
Yeah.
it cheaper?
Oh,
Yes.
yes, I can.
Oh.
I love the drawing he's got going on over here.
Do you
Yeah,
feel
it's
any
cool.
pressure, Brian, drawing an artist who could probably draw better?
No.
Did you?
No.
Not really, because we're.
I'm so jealous. I need to get one of these.
Oh, recommend. Ben
Yeah.
just bought one.
I did. It literally came in today.
Oh, did it get here?
I don't have a pencil yet.
I think it
Yeah.
would save my mocking up time so much because I hand draw everything and
Okay.
then take it into Illustrator. I actually will draw a lot of stuff in Illustrator,
Okay.
then take it into Photoshop.
Yeah, but you're not drawing in Illustrator. You're clicking a button a million
I'm
times.
a million times.
Yeah.
At least.
Okay, so recommendation, the Procreate app
Yep.
is one,
Uh-huh.
but it's not a vector program.
Is it not?
No, I'm sorry. I have used it not as a vector
Okay,
program yet.
gotcha.
It may have that capability, but I'm still ignorant because I don't learn very fast at all. And I don't
Gotcha.
really
And he
want
doesn't
to.
have internet to look
And
up
I
how
don't have
things
internet to
work.
look
So
up
it's
I'm-
find out
but
as you can
I'm
go.
still pushing the GoFundMe for
There's
you.
another one called Vectornator,
Okay.
and with that you can draw in vectors
Okay.
instantaneously
That's what I
without
need.
pushing. But yeah, that's what you need. So
Mhm.
it's real cheap.
Yeah.
So
Sold.
That's
what
one thing
want.
I had no idea about before I did any of the lasering or the CNC,
Mhm.
what a vector is.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is like,
you know now,
I
don't you?
absolutely need everything in vectors, always.
Everything.
It's hilarious.
So I think, I think everything works out like it should, and so one job that I took after I left Verizon designing websites for them, I took a job. There was an online dating site called True.com. They were trying to be a
That's where Ben
competitor.
met.
it was online, but it wasn't
Yeah,
on a dating
exactly.
site.
They were trying to be like a competitor for Match.com
Okay.
at the time, and I took a role as a senior designer for those guys.
Oh.
And there was the art director, the one that was over all of us designers. She was so particular about to the pixel, and I got so trained that I could see like to the pixel, like if something was off,
Mhm.
And so I feel like that, just picking up little things like that, that's how I see the wall almost. Like I can see the grid in my head, There's a new style, and I forget what it's called, but people will just make a bunch of different lines and little designs and just do all kinds of numbers and words and letters and just all kinds of stuff. And it kind of forms a grid. It's just not a square grid.
Mhm.
And then they'll kind of use those lines for shading and shadowing and all of that. So that's a really cool technique. I would like to do something like that. The sketching part is my favorite part.
Yeah.
And so the more I can sketch out and doodle on the wall, the better.
Here's one question I have.
Sure.
For me, I don't want woodworking stuff to become full-time because I feel like I would lose the hobby and the reason I got into it.
Mm-hmm.
How has that happened to you now that because you're not, I guess this is one thing Brian has said, when you get jobs, you're not doing the jobs because you're doing the art you want to make. You're doing the art somebody else wants you to make.
Yeah.
How's that been now that you've been full-time? Like, is it killing you or?
It's not.
Okay.
It seems like you're more invested in the process, and that's where you get your fun in on it. It's not necessarily because it's yours.
I love the process, and don't get me wrong, I love to draw, and I love to do my own little thing, but I would much rather have designers, design a mural,
Really?
have an idea. There's some, so I was actually just having this conversation with my wife yesterday. I'm hoping to work with a couple of different designers, Tara Peacock in particular. She designed the Quattlebaum mural. She designed the winning mural that we had for the Hulu show. I love her style. It looks great on walls. Bold colors, bright colors, really gets people's attention. So I love the style. I would much rather. I'm a Gemini artist with ADD, and so there's no wrong answer. Which gives me 5 million, options on what can go on that wall. And so what I struggle with is there's no wrong answer. So I can't decide on what needs to be there. Now, if I have a client that is very clear about what they want and they know exactly what they want, I'm okay. If it comes to a client that's like, do your thing.
Oh man,
I freeze.
See, that's crazy.
I absolutely
that's
can't.
what I would prefer.
Yeah,
Really?
that's what he's told me all the time.
So that's interesting. The first time you and I met, I was talking to the freshman art class at Harding, and you had approached me there. I consider it's still hard for me. I consider myself an artist, but not. I guess not an artist in the traditional sense.
Well, no.
And I'm trying to figure out what the term is. And if you guys know, tell me please, because the only thing I can think of is like Xerox. It's like copying machine. Because I can take a design and reproduce that, on whatever scale.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as sitting down, every once in a while I have a little creative spark and I will create something that is me and that I love. Mm-hmm. But as far as coming up with my own style of something and turning that into something like you've done with the characters, I can't do that. I struggle with it.
That's crazy. I mean, there's definitely all kinds of creativity. Yeah. And you think one style, art, drawing would be one way, but everyone's so different.
And I'm very empathetic. There was a comment that you see all the comments on Facebook, and I hear all the positive and I appreciate all the positive, but I don't live on that, and same thing with the negative. I see them, but I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to stay in my lane and do my thing, But there was a comment made, and I don't think they're wrong. They said that I would love to do this, but I don't want someone else painting my work. I would do it if I could paint it, and I'm like, I don't blame them. They're absolutely right, And so I'm at a point now to where I am kind of running it like a business. And so I am kind of bringing on a designer to kind of help me with that role. If someone does see my work and they love my work, for example, the American flag that we recently painted here,
where all the cars are being taken.
Yes,
I'm
loving
of
it, man. I love the cars. That gentleman actually, he stopped me. I was actually painting the Hulu mural, and he stopped by and he's like, "Man, I was trying to get a picture of the flag," and I was like, before 8 o'clock or after 5 o'clock? I'm like, there's no parking downtown. That parking lot is full all day long, but you get here before 8 o'clock or after 5, and man, that parking lot's empty. 5 o'clock, that thing's dead. So, but yeah, there's been a ton of vehicles in front of it already. And I can't wait to start seeing just the old American muscle cars come out. So, big fan. But if someone, that flag is another one that kind of took off really quick within just a couple of days. I mean, it reached over 5,000 people, just a lot of comments, a lot of shares, a lot of people that aren't big fans of public art and not big fans of murals in general in our little community.
But are Americans.
Red blood. Well, that one, they're like, I like that one.
Put a flag on it. Now stick a flag on whatever you're making.
That's it. And so I've had 2 other communities reach out to me and want to do a flag mural. I'm not going to do the same flag mural on each one, but I kind of like that being my thing. You know? I'm just fine painting flag murals just all over the nation.
Well, you're doing a bus right now, right?
Doing a bus, man.
That's different.
That's one of those scary projects that, it's, can you do this? I don't know. Let's try it and see.
That's the best way. Yes, I can. And then figure it out as you go and don't let anyone know.
That's pretty much how I roll,
It took me 10 times longer to do it, but I did it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the way a lot of these projects go. So, I'm learning a lot as I go, and through my podcast and through some talking, speaking engagements that I've got coming up, which is something that I'm really wanting to get into. I want to, encourage, especially if you can, the younger you can get them and get them to face that fear earlier, the more successful they're going to be, And so it's great to have the opportunity to go into high schools, go into the freshman art class at Harding, talk to them, and really push them past that fear. Kind of forgot where I was going with that. So I told you ADD kicked.
There you go.
Creatives. Yeah.
So the bus.
Oh yeah, the bus. And so, one of the things that I want to encourage the kids about and really talk about, especially as an artist, is like, man, you've got to avoid debt like the plague. Like, it's so much harder to live life in general, let alone be an artist, if you've got all this, debt and stuff hanging over you. Just avoid that. Dave Ramsey plan. Do that and do it early and often and just live that lifestyle. If I can get them to do that, then I think that will free a lot of them up. So I was kind of in a situation where the bus came up to where I had some jobs that weren't paying as quickly as I needed them to, and things were getting tight, and it was an opportunity, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. It's a scary project, man, but it's one of those that, I know that if there wasn't student debt or, a house payment, if life wasn't, life, things would be a lot easier. And so that's one of my big missions right now is teach the kids to, avoid debt, stay out of it, and then follow your passion. We've got to, and the guy that we were talking about before the show, one of his big things is we've got to change the conversation from money being what's considered happiness to happiness being what's considered happiness. You have got to find what you're passionate about, what makes you happy, and you've got to go all in on that. Even if you start out part-time. I started out doing the shoes for $25 a pair, spending 40 to 60 hours, like a whole week working on the shoes, to doing what I'm doing now. I mean, you've got to find that passion. You've got to go all in on it.
Did you ever come across a time when you felt this was horrible, I need to just get a normal job? And if you did, how do you get over that?
Not getting super religious, but man, raised up in church and just, knowing where I stand. Whenever I felt like God said it was time, I was all in. You can't argue with that. I mean, what are you gonna say?
Yeah.
Now with that being said, I mean, there are stressful times. If a client is not getting the funds fast enough, and you've already got plans and you got money tied up in other things, we got in a position about a year and a half ago where my wife, we decided that she was able to stay at home, be a stay-at-home mom, and take care of the boys and get them back and forth to school. Because
and you're doing art full time at that.
Art full time.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's been an absolute blessing. It's blown my mind. I mean, it's bigger than I've ever dreamed it would be.
Yeah.
And some of the things that I'm working on now and that I see coming, it just blows. I mean, literally, I just don't see how. I mean, it's just crazy.
Is it either it's the work itself or the connections, or I mean, you don't know. You said you don't know. I don't know.
No, I feel like it's, like we said earlier, doing what people aren't willing to do. I really
That's
feel
the key. Right?
It seems like if I'm not doing something, if I'm not painting something, I'm not putting stuff out, it seems like it continues on a downward spiral. If I will create something and put that out there on Instagram, Facebook, somebody sees it, and then sure enough, a couple days later, I've got a phone call. Hey, what do you think about this? Well, if things are slow, the first 2 years for sure, I thought the winter would be the slow time. It was just the opposite. I was dead in the summertime.
Really?
Which my wife was working at that time. I stayed home with the boys. At the time, I think they were 10 and 6 at the time. Most kids, I grew up mowing yards. My dad had me mowing yards at 11. I was making money. 11 years old, I was making $200 or $300 a week. I was making
That's
bank.
Real good.
And but my boys, this was right on the end of the fidget spinner craze. I set them up a Shopify account. We would have a board meeting every Monday. We would talk about ideas. We were ordering from Alibaba or AliExpress and selling through a Shopify website. They made a few $100 a piece,
Nice.
selling fidget spinners and shipping them. We were shipping them to Texas and New Jersey and everywhere else.
That's
So,
crazy.
it's during those slow times. Going back to talking about my wife and her patience, she persevered and she really supported me through those first couple of years. And man, it's without her, going back to that, there's not a chance that I would have ever been able to stick it out.
Yeah.
But it's, you guys, I know that y'all know. Did you ever think, being on a TV show, like all of this stuff?
No.
I
grew up in Bradford, so I figured
so
the first TV show was going to be Cops.
Exactly. No.
No.
I grew up in Ball Knob, and I just knew it was going to be there. A graffiti, vandalism. Yeah, it was going to be the biggest crime.
That, or they'd be like, "Did you see that tornado?" And then that'd be the guy they interviewed. It came by real fast.
That's it. Sound like a train.
Sound like a train.
That was a train.
Where do you see yourself going from here? I guess.
All right.
Like what?
Yeah.
You want to get employees to where you're not doing any more art?
Not so much. Not so much. I want to,
eventually all the buildings will be painted and you'll run out of canvas.
Well, I can't. So this is my thing right now. I can't paint everything. I can't paint every window. I can't. I'm going to be limited in my life to what I can do in a year. There's only so much I can do. So
Brian, listen up.
So right now,
Brian, I'm sitting here taking notes.
Everybody, I'm fully committed right now to teaching everybody. If there is an artist that is kind of struggling and facing that fear right now and just not taking that step, I want to teach them. I want to start them where I started, painting windows. It's something that I've been working on. I'm working on a few designs to where I'll have a template that they can actually use on the window. But I think that's going to be one of the quickest, easiest ways. And we live in a community here where $200, $300, $500 a month will change somebody's life.
Yeah,
that's extra money in
Absolutely.
this community. And I could get them painting 2-3 windows extra a month around the state. And that's where I started. I think once they start doing it, it will change. So I've got an online course that I'm trying to get recorded and get all that set up. Of course, the podcast. My goal is just to talk about and teach what I've learned.
We talked about this. You're also going to offer up kits. That way, because you've already done all the time and doing all the research on what material to use for these windows to make them look the best. So you're just pretty much putting a kit together that they can purchase, giving them courses that they can watch, and then on your way.
The initial investment is probably going to be somewhere in the $150 to $200 range, but you can make that back in your first 1 or 2 windows.
Yeah.
And then it's all profit after that, minus supplies. But so the initial offering is going to be an online course. It's going to be a how-to, from start to finish, including a little bit of talk about Instagram, Facebook marketing, getting your content out there. You'll get the brush that I use, the rollers that I use, the trays that I use, and the template. You'll get to pick out of 5 or 10 designs that I have for templates.
Online course? Are you talking about YouTube?
Or it's
coming to your website, and
it's probably going to be a sign-up course to start with. So it'll be a pay-to-play type of thing. With that being said, though, there's going to be a lot of information that I just share on my podcast, and
I think you need to get on YouTube and do tips there.
I put the video so that the one.
Hold on, who was that? Man, I can't believe I can't think of it. The guy with the fro.
Oh, Bob Ross.
Bob
Bob
Ross.
Ross.
You gotta do like the
Who
video
was the guy?
Yeah.
set up.
The guy with the fro.
I
The
don't
guy
know.
with the fro.
Man, that
Put some happy trees in
Yeah,
there.
that guy's a machine. He's he
Is he
for
still
one,
alive?
No,
No.
he passed
Okay.
away. So he passed away the year that I went to look at the Memphis School of Art. I remember that's one thing that I remember about that school. There was
through.
posters up, and rest in peace, and just every
Yeah.
room
Yeah.
you went into,
People
there was
crying.
stuff. Oh yeah, it was a
No
it was
more
a bad
happy
day,
trees.
you
No
know.
more happy trees.
But yeah, he from what I understand, he never sold any of his paintings that he painted on the show.
No.
He had all of them, and I think he donated them to different PBS stations around.
Oh.
Some
the
of
nation.
them. I read that most of them have been stockpiled in like one
That's,
office building, I
that's what
think,
I
in
thought.
South Carolina, and
Mhm.
the Smithsonian is taking some of them now
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
on that level.
How amazing to become to. I mean, he put painting on the
Oh, yeah.
map. Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh yeah, grew up watching him, man.
Crazy.
That was, and my youngest son loves him too.
yeah.
He'll watch him on
That's still,
Netflix. I think had some Netflix or Hulu. But
yeah.
So the one thing I remember about, I watched it was on PBS.
Yeah.
You can make a tree, paint the tree trunk,
Yep.
and then take toilet paper or tissue paper and make the leaves.
I will
And I was
say,
like,
Yeah.
you can paint with something that's not a brush.
Yeah.
Like, it was like,
There you go.
Paint
I
with
was
toilet
like,
paper.
man,
yeah,
like, you just use toilet paper.
I will say nothing I ever painted looked anything like anything he ever painted.
Uh,
Just there was not a
My
chance.
tree ain't happy.
Even the color by numbers didn't even work. For
Oh
me, so.
dear. Oh gosh.
Brian, what have you been up to this
Um,
since we
well,
last had a podcast?
Okay, well, I don't really remember because for the last 3 nights I've been up until 3 a.m.
Good grief.
Playing with the laser, and we're
You
about.
guys
to-
got some new toys.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
lasers!
Lasers.
This laser has a 28-inch wide bed, and I've been taking full advantage of that.
Yeah.
And I've been making cuts that I could never achieve on a scroll saw. They're very technical. It's schematic.
That's amazing.
And I'm thrilled beyond words. And I'm from this point on, Fiery Squirrel Art, we're just doing battleships and star cruisers from now on. Okay, I hope everyone understands.
Why
but
do anything else?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be the Starship Enterprise and every World War II naval craft ever. So,
All right.
that's what I've been doing.
Cody, what are you
Well,
making battleships?
I don't have anything to compete with that. No, it's doing the tables for make do.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finish those tops. Basically, I just gotta sand them down. And then we moved. Me and you moved her tables today.
Solid doors
Yep.
as the top.
Oh, you guys move stuff
Like
without me
100
again?
By the
Oh,
way,
yeah, like you're
Is
real
that-
upset over there.
I gotta
Darn.
figure out how you do that.
What's that?
It
goes
Oh,
to
dodge
soul.
the work.
Yeah,
I
like
live in a
dodge-
cave
okay.
with
No.
no contact.
Shaping
means.
young
No
minds.
internet.
No internet.
we couldn't get a hold of it.
That's
He ran out of minutes on his phone.
That's what it was.
That's it.
Those tables were no joke.
Dude.
So we showed up. We bragged about showing up and only having to move one thing,
I saw that.
and then we had to go back and
Yeah,
change everything else. So she bought us lunch at Burrito Day.
Oh.
So that's
yeah,
okay.
that was good.
man.
hmm
Yeah.
I achieved 10,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm so proud.
And I'm thinking about starting a YouTube.
Yes, I'm trying to encourage it.
Do it. Even I have one. No
Man.
one pays attention, but I've got
No.
one. So.
YouTube, podcast, the whole nine. I mean, you guys really need to be just putting content out like
That's the key.
all day, every day.
Content, just film everything,
Yeah.
and if you don't use it, you don't use it. But
Um,
you can't film. You can't show what you don't film.
Sometimes I feel like I put out the most random stuff, but I honestly don't feel like I'm putting out enough.
Yeah, no,
Like,
you can't.
and it's the questions that people ask, and you kind of realize like, oh, hey, people may be interested in me washing these brushes out here. They want to see that.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's what I'm really trying to do is show a lot more of the grind and kind of the stuff that people don't see. It's
I think the behind the scenes stuff is what people and the screw
agree.
ups too. I posted what
Oh, well,
I
got
made
those
myself
days.
a plaque
Yeah.
and I spelled it wrong and showed that. And one guy's comment was like, "I can't believe you showed this. I'd never have the guts." And I was like, "Dude, this is me. I can't spell.
Yeah.
Man.
I have no problem showing that."
Congratulations, by the way.
Congratulations.
Yes.
I'd love to share a story with you if you got
Yeah.
time.
Go
but
for
one
it.
of the very first murals that I painted was
No.
was
No.
in Bald Knobs, and it was a little flea market that they had there. It was called the
Oh,
Bald Knob Vendor Mall, and the lady had a parrot, and she wanted this parrot painted on there, and she wanted to say Ball Knob Vendor Mall. I was just getting started in graffiti, so this is my first mural ever. This is the first large scale anything that I've ever done of significance that I got paid for. Never thought twice about, again, I see it as a large sheet of paper, so I just didn't think about gridding it. Never thought about stepping back and looking at it. So I'm painting this whole thing.
You're
I'm
right
on the
here.
wall
You're
all
here the
day
whole
long.
time.
Right.
Paint this giant parrot, Ball Knob Vendor Mall. Step back and look at it. I left the N out of vendor. So I had to repaint
Vidor.
about half of
Vidor.
that mural. Ball Knob Vidor Mall is what we had. So
Oh no!
yeah, I
my
absolutely
gosh.
had to repaint about half of that mural to fix that.
Yeah.
So
That's
so
because
funny.
once you're off center and once it's off,
Yeah,
you're
totally-
you've got a mess to
you're
clean
totally-
up.
I
So.
would
so
rage
funny.
quit
Oh
right there.
yeah, and
Give
of
her
course
money
it was
back.
summertime.
I would.
Leave it.
No, I would. I would give the money back and walk away.
Man,
so
now
good
I
for
will
you.
say there has been a couple of times that thought has crossed my
Really?
mind. Yeah, just
got
like
close.
it's just not worth it.
Okay.
You cannot please everyone.
Well, I have not had any problem with clients, knock on wood, but it's just my personal frustration,
okay.
being 1,000 degrees, being 80 degrees with, feels like 125,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and just one of those days,
Mhm.
and just like it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Take it.
Dehydration and
Here's
a
your money.
migraine. and
Yeah, exactly.
Just anger.
Mhm.
But no, I've pushed through and survived this far. So.
Yeah. You're
It's-
doing
it's
awesome,
been
man.
great.
You are everywhere.
There was a Bible verse that I heard about a year ago, and it's Proverbs 18:16, I think, and it says basically a man's gift will bring him before great people. Man, super humble beginnings, from Ball Knob and just growing up, just living, just making it. Never felt poor, but not wealthy by any means, to come from that and to be able to shake hands and be in the same room with a lot of people that I've been in the past couple of years has blown my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so that verse, man, just guides me like you would not believe. I know why this gift is here and what I'm supposed to do with it. And if I can just get that through to the next generation and help them achieve real happiness, not what Instagram tells them is happiness. It's not bottles and models, man.
No.
It's you got to live your life.
There's something about creating. That's something with the podcast. We're makers.
Yeah.
We can step back and see something we made with our
Yeah.
hands, and I think that is one step closer to the creator itself.
I agree.
The
100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we can find you where? Let the listeners know where you can find you, all your stuff and your time lapse and stuff.
Yeah, most of my stuff is on at White's Artworks, so it's White's with an S, Artworks with an S. I do have the podcast that I'm trying to get off the ground. It's the Overspray podcast. The quickest place to find it is anchor.fm/overspray. I'm really enjoying that. Of course, you guys can tell I love to talk.
How many episodes do you have so far?
I've got 2 right now. They were both cut from the same interview.
Okay.
The audio's not great on it because I did not save it properly and ended up having to record it off the computer on my phone, and it was a mess.
Yep.
And
It happens to us all.
yeah.
I lost
You
the
live,
last,
you learn.
I lost the last video for YouTube because I
Oh man,
deleted it. So whoops.
yeah,
Yeah.
it happened. Yeah, I've got 2 time lapses that I've got to get out, and just I've been busy, man. It's
And
been,
if
crazy.
people are listening, so we'll come out Tuesday.
Okay.
Where can they find you on your latest mural?
Let's see. Where am I going to be?
You can find him
Tuesday?
alive and hand him a
Yeah,
bottle of water. 'Cause it'll
most-
probably still be hot.
Well, you may not be able to get to me Tuesday. I'm going to be on school property.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I probably won't be as
Working on the bus still.
Working on the bus. I'm
All right.
hoping to finish
So,
that up next week.
Is the bus for is it
It's-
athlete transport?
No, it's a
or-
bookmobile.
Oh, cool.
They're turning
Oh,
it
cool.
into a mobile
Yeah.
library, and my sister is the librarian at Ball Knob School.
Okay.
And she's
Wow.
working with
Okay,
a
cool.
group over there, and I know that sounds like one of those it's who you know, but
It is still who you know.
I had
mean,
to
that looks-
outbid a couple of different businesses to get this
Yeah.
one, so it worked out. It's going to be cool. I'll be there, and then from there I'm headed to Heber and then Warren, Arkansas. So, and then from Warren, it's probably going to be somewhere around Augusta or Pleasant Grove. I'll be up north. I've got about 10 murals lined up right now.
You are everywhere
It's
around the state. That is
It's been-
amazing.
it's been
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Really proud of you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Loving it. I love the podcast, man. I love the gold
Well, thanks.
microphones.
Thank
guys
you.
are-
Yeah.
you guys are
Yeah.
killing it here.
And there's just so
Classy.
much more. It's like we didn't even get into the Spartan
Oh, yeah.
mowers
Yeah.
mural. Like we didn't get into any of that.
You know-
So my plan is to have people come back maybe a year or
Yeah,
so from now and
absolutely.
catch up with you.
Man, I would
So-
love it. And
If you'll still even want to be on the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
well, I may try to get you guys on mine too.
Well,
if you don't
yeah,
mind,
we'd
'cause
love to be
that's-
on it.
With the art stuff, I want to interview all. It's not just painting. I want to interview all different artists because it's kind of the same thing.
Uh-huh.
We have got to change that conversation and get these kids and get artists to push past the fear and take that step.
And
Because-
it is amazing since we've started this, and it's been a connection with everyone in town
yeah, absolutely.
to find the creatives that
Oh,
come
yeah.
out of the crack, and the common thread that you
Yeah.
just didn't know existed is amazing.
Oh yeah, I never thought that Searcy, would be the kind of the art mecca almost that it's become,
Yeah.
But overall, man, the community's been so supportive. I honestly don't know that I could have finished this last mural in 5 days if not for the people. And you'll see some of the video and some of the comments on my Instagram and stuff, but people bringing food and snacks
Really?
and drinks and yeah.
So you like that?
Oh, yeah,
When you're- I think that would be cool too.
I love talking. I mean, I love meeting people. And just one more quick little story. I know we got to go.
Go ahead.
Whenever I was painting the White County Title Building, which is the history of Searcy,
Uh-huh.
we had a third grade class. The whole third grade came down, and they did kind of a tour of all the murals in the downtown area. And then each class would come by where I was painting, and I would stop and I would tell them the story of the mural. I would show them what the different tips do that I have on the spray paint and how all that worked.
See, I should have been with them.
That's
Yeah,
super
exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
Why can you not do field trips, Brian? You're the art teacher.
Okay.
That takes effort.
I have
Hands are tied.
600
Have you ever-
different students in my class.
Have you ever been
I have
alone
the whole
with
school.
third graders?
Ah.
No one wants to go.
Very
Yeah.
patient women there. Very, very patient
Yeah.
teachers.
Mhm.
Yeah, all of them came by and they would ask questions, and I mean it was just great.
I think
their
that's
eyes
cool.
would just light up. And,
Yeah.
if I just reach one of them that he wants to be an artist when they grow up,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
what it's all about.
Yeah,
you go.
for sure.
Be makers.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for being on.
Thank
We
you guys so
appreciate it.
much.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Jason.
you having me. It's been
Yeah,
a blast.
of
Thanks.
course. Awesome. Well, we'll see y'all next time, and happy creating.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Ciao.